How y'all doing? How y'all doing? We are blessed to be back again. This is Elevated Vibes on IntellectualRadio.com. The number to get with us with this conversation is 708-223-8953. Or you can hit us up on Facebook Live. Now, everybody, before we even get into our topic, and I'm going to tell y'all what our topic is just because we're going to take a little time for something else just for a second, but I want to tell y'all the topic so y'all know what y'all going to get with. We're going to talk about the rise of having a gig economy. That's what we're going to talk about. But before we get into it, a tragedy happened today, everybody. Well, technically, let's keep it real. It's the second tragedy. And I'm going to say that because earlier this week on Labor Day, there was a gentleman who, best way I could put it, he assassinated 4 people on the train. Okay.
Southside.
No, that was over west.
It was over west.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Forest Park. Yes.
Yep. You're right.
Yes. And then also, we're gonna say a few words about earlier today, a 14-year-old shot up a school in Georgia, north of Atlanta. I'm gonna start with you, Mr. Evans. Go ahead.
Well, I have to say, with the 14-year-old shooting, the gun laws, they're gonna have to do something. I mean, they haven't done anything with trying to regulate guns, especially in that part of the country. They're freely available. They're easy to get access to, and it's like the lawmakers are not taking this seriously, even though they might say that they care about the issue. It doesn't seem like it to me.
What up? First and foremost, we're back on the air, so grateful for that blessing. We've been away for a minute. It's always shocking, disappointing to have to come back to such disappointing news. Here's the issue. The issue of guns in America are as American as apple pie. You know, the gun and its power is interwoven into the fabric of the United States and its history. The problem of gun violence is uniquely American. Because of that and the constitutional right to own firearms, we will continue to experience these tragedies. As you are all aware, I am a proponent of, guns, and not gun violence, but of the right to own a gun. But no right is unregulated or unfettered. I am not sure what the solution is. I don't think taking away guns is the solution. I don't think, registration of firearms is the solution. But especially in the case of the 14-year-old and this tragedy that happened in Forest Park.
Yes.
But because the answer is difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't do something about it. And the first thing we have to do is acknowledge is that this is a problem and that is uniquely American, and that prayers and wishes are only do one thing, and that's create a dream. And we can do something about it. Reasonable minds can find a way to bring down this gun violence that we're experiencing. It is no longer, it is so routine that no news coverage except for this 5 and 6 o'clock news, no interruptions, nothing happened. It was just, there was a shooting in Georgia at 14. And of course, we want to talk about the mental health and all of that stuff. But if cigarettes we know cause cancer and we can regulate those, if we know if Oxycontin was the new addiction and we can regulate that, if we believe that the war on drugs causes drug addiction, then what about our addiction to violence? Why can't we figure out a way to deal with that? And take a systematic approach. It doesn't have to be a zero-sum game, right? We regulate cigarettes, we put taxes on it, We give announcements. We have doctors talk about it, and we saw the use of cigarettes go down. Right. We saw that when we promoted seatbelts, the accidents go down. So this whole ideology that any talk or regulation of guns is somehow going to lead to me not having my firearm is absolutely and utterly ridiculous.
So you are for regulation.
I am for regulations that wise and like-minded people can come up with that says we believe that these are steps that we can take to reduce the incidence of gun violence. So, for instance, requiring every couple of years to have to hit a target from 8 feet, you know, for having gun owners have to purchase insurance, not government insurance, but insurance. Well, maybe government insurance. Maybe that's something we could pay for, because I think the insurance industry is a whole nother thing. But anyway,
how about fingerprint?
I don't know how fingerprinting necessarily leads to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand, it identifies me as the owner, but in this case, it was a 14-year-old. How would that have stopped this violence?
So, I mean, if they can put the fingerprint.
Oh, you mean a fingerprint on a...
Right. To be able to use the gun. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, if
like a security light.
Right.
Security.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw that in movies and stuff. I don't know if we're there yet. I don't know, but that would be something,
But it's not like they can't be there. I mean, hey, you got AI and everything that you do.
Right.
Now,
well, I know we have it.
We got to be close.
Like if you have a gun box.
Yes.
I have.
I know.
Yeah,
I get
a
two fingerprint
system to access my weapon in case I need it. I don't know about on the actual gun itself. You know what I'm saying? So, so there's that. I think there are common sense laws and regulations that are out there. Having to register, with the state or whatever. I think it's one of those things that we do to try to make people feel safe, but it doesn't actually do anything. We need hardcore measures that, are common sense based on, studies. Like in America, we can't even study American violence, because the people have campaigned against, studying violence, the assault, we demonize the AR, when it's not the AR. Like they have shotguns out there that you can pull and that will shoot 15 shotgun slugs with just one pull. That's just as devastating, if not more devastating than an AR. Yeah. If you've ever witnessed the violence that a shotgun can do to the human body, it's just as much. So we can't just demonize a weapon. We have to have common sense regulations that has a systematic, well thought out, academic approach that will lead to decreasing in violence. Now, of course, those on the other side are going to say, well, look at all the knife attacks in Europe and stuff like that. And one of the comedians jokes, he was like, the answer to those the knife attacks is the American thing, get a gun, right? But we have to find something, and to just idly continue to sit on our hands and to do nothing is the tragedy itself. And I knew that war was lost when what was it? The first and second graders got killed. What was that?
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook. When we did nothing with Sandy Hook, and that involved kids of non-color, small kids of non-color, and we did absolutely nothing, and we had the moral high ground, or you had the moral high ground, and that led to no regulations and to people falsely claiming that it never occurred, we lost. And we lost that war.
And that's why I'm going to put my take on the fact that with everything, with the thing that happened in Forest Park, with what went down in Georgia, I blame all of us. You know what I mean? Because you have to look at it. Number one, if you know better, you do better. Okay? The gentleman in Forest Park, somebody knew that boy was off. I'm going to put it to you like that. All right. He had some people somewhere, somebody knew that. And yes, I understand that from what I heard, the stories that he was a gun instructor. Number one, if you know that boy is not
But did it happen slowly? Did it? Because I give it to you, Rich. The issue is so hard to get mental health treatment in this country.
I agree. What I'm saying is, though, still, you know, some of his people, whoever they are, could have been like, okay, state of Illinois, whatever. He does not need to be an instructor, a gun instructor at all, you know, or he needs to go seek help, get help before he can get back into what he was doing. All right, that's one. And then now we can flip to Georgia. He was 14. 14. Somebody knew definitely something was going on in that boy's life. All right. Because I'm sorry, 14 years old, yes, okay, you might see some movies that you mimic guns or whatever, but I'm not thinking on that level. You know, I am not thinking on that level. All right. We at the time, and I met you when I was 15, Tim. I mean, what did we were in school doing our thing, but we wasn't on the point of wanting to put a bullet in somebody, putting a bullet in some teachers. Or
I mean, but here's the thing: we never know the depthness of someone's hurt, you know. And to what you were saying, I get it. Like, you know, the thing with us though is that if you were being bullied, and there's no reports that this kid was. Bullied,
and I'm agreeing. That's why I'm not putting it out there on that level.
You never know what's going on. I don't know where we've gotten to this mentality that, you know, we're going to shoot them, you know, shoot people, you know, and you're like, well, school just started. How bad can it be? And, you know, you're 14 and you wonder how bad it can be. I don't know. But somehow he got, and I'm looking through the articles to see, did they say what type of weapon it was? I mean, clearly it was a gun, but was it just a handgun? Was it a rifle?
Well, I've heard they had different stories, so I don't know in particular.
He surrendered.
Yeah, I mean, he did all that, and there was even stories that it was an AK on the ground. I don't know how true it is, and I mean, this is kids seeing guns, and some of them might not know exactly what gun is what. So a lot of times they may just jump off and say it's an AK, or, you know, it's a
you'd be surprised.
It's a 9. I mean, some kids that know it very well.
Kids playing the Call of Duty and all of that stuff. They can identify guns better than you.
Right, and I agree. Right. Some of them know it very well.
And you know, I don't know his situation. I mean, he could be in rural. Was he in rural?
It's a place an hour north of Atlanta.
See, that might be rural.
No, it seemed more like real suburban, almost on the level of not to put our suburbs out there, but on the level of a Naperville. I don't know how true it is, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I don't know how his parents, they may have had multiple guns around the house. You know, because people are fetishizing guns these days. You know,
and I understand that, but you got it around the house now. You got the responsibility that you got a kid, and the kid could be hot-headed. We all know that. But now it's your responsibility to say, okay, my kid may do something with this gun or whatever. Let me make sure it's locked up every morning. Mm-hmm. Let me make sure that, you know, if it's a key lock, I got the key with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, all the way down the line. I mean, it may be that fingerprint lock, which would be even more, you know, protected, but still, you know, you make sure some of these things. I mean, who knows how the kid got the gun? We all know that. It was even back in the day, you can get a gun quick if you know the right people. You know what I'm saying? So it could have been any of that.
I mean, not to mention a lot of these people who own guns don't think they're as dangerous as maybe we do, because I've seen multiple videos of people taking their 5-year-olds out shooting stuff at 5 years old.
I've seen them too.
You know, so I can see the argument that if you live like in the wilderness, you might want to be able to protect your family from a wild animal or something.
It's more of a tool for protection. It's more of a tool to feed your family and everything else. I get that.
You know, but 5 years old, you know what I'm saying?
You start early. I mean, maybe that's part of it. You know, maybe the fascination or the nostalgia that goes with it comes from, you know, introduction of it early. You know, if it's something you're familiar with, you don't see it as something exotic, something that's novel, something new. You know, if you grew up with guns, you don't see it that way. You just see them as what they are, like you said, tools. A tool for securing, you know, meat, a tool for securing your personhood. It's not this, you know, tool that is, you know, meant to, you know, be fascinating and things like that. It's no different than a hammer, you know, but nobody sits up there and admires a hammer.
Of course.
You know, so but also, and I'm gonna say it again, it comes back to culture. We regulate sex more than we regulate violence on TV. You
That's
know,
true.
Our penchant for violence and the introduction of violence has grown. You know, I remember when,
And that's why I go to the point where, like I said, I blame all of us. You know what I'm saying? Because yes, they don't regulate violence like they should, but then yet we've accepted it for so long that it's regular to us.
Yeah, we accept, you know, movies. You know, I love a good John Woo flick, you know, but you got to remember when we were coming up watching TV, you never saw the Dukes of Hazzard play with guns.
That's true.
You never saw Chips. They don't even. I don't even think they drew their weapon on Chips.
I can't even remember on that
That's
one.
good. For sure.
Like, A-Team. I mean, he might have fired a machine gun in the air, but they were mostly boxing and fighting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, when you think of TV shows, you know, Hill Street Blues. Did they? I don't think they shot anyone on Hill Street Blues.
No.
You know, you think of those cop shows that we grew up watching. You know, Doogie Howser. I mean, you just think of some of those shows that we watch. There wasn't this air of violence,
Right?
You know, and so I think, you know, our barometer or penchant for violence has increased as our shows have grown increasingly more violent.
Right.
You know, Equalizer. I don't remember them shooting too many guns on Equalizer. Used to watch that show. The Rockford Files. Did he have a gun?
Man, I just remember the name, the Rockford Files. I didn't even watch it, bro.
Quick question: why do you think this country is so uniquely violent, and not other countries who also have? You can own a gun in like Norway, and you can own a gun in Canada. You can own a gun in a lot of places. They're not as violent as America is. So, what makes us uniquely violent? You think?
Wow.
A lot how the culture has been for so long, you know, since our inception as a country. You know, a lot of the culture was violent, like, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, you had other countries with the same type of violence, or maybe even more gruesome.
So,
but
let me
have
give
stricter regulations. I think they do have stricter regulations. Like you have to do something like in Japan. Like you gotta, like, it's like a bunch of tests and all of this stuff. Like it makes you think, is this worthwhile? Like
I mean,
go through this.
But check it out. Okay,
gun,
so a couple of maybe about 10 years ago, Australia had an issue, right? They had a lot of people had guns because it's like a kind of a frontier kind of country like America was, right? And guns, a lot of people had guns. They had one mass shooting. They took all the guns. They had hardly any problem with taking those guns away from people. People were like, okay, if we're gonna have mass shootings, just take the gun. Why can't America do that?
Because America was founded based off the fear of tyranny. I don't think Australia was. Australia, they were shipping them the prisoners there. But when it's ingrained in your constitution, the fear of tyranny, and that we shall never give up, and that cowboy mentality that doesn't exist in Australia, and our history, the history of, let's just call it the legacy and the shadow of slavery, you know, our penchant to use violence in order to achieve our means. That is what makes the impossibility of giving up firearms. Like Malcolm said, I'll give up my weapons when you make them give up theirs. And as long as it's you do first before I do, we'll never give it up.
And then a lot of times too, we follow policy that we all know it needs change, and they don't want to make that change with it. You know what I'm saying? Yes, okay, it is in the Constitution, the right to bear arms, blah, 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 blah. Okay. But that was for in the beginning of this country when it was more frontier, like, and we can go down the line. You know, I mean, do you need it because of what's out here? Yes. All right. But there can be some type of as Mike here just said, some common sense change that can help things out, but nobody wants to touch it. And we can go down the line with different types of policy that unfortunately we here in America wants to sit down and follow that on a constant basis. When it's time, when it's time to change something, you should change it. Plain and simple.
But it's not going to change because you want to keep your gun to fight off other groups that you think that are threatening.
Yep.
So it's never going to change then.
Right.
Right.
Right. And it goes back
nobody's going to be vulnerable.
And it goes back to what Mike just said, that, nobody wants to give up theirs first.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I tell you, I sure don't.
Right. But you know
Right.
what I'm saying? Nobody wants to give up theirs first at
Yeah.
all. And
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
You know what convinced me of that? And you can say it's racial or whatever. But you remember that movie Rosewood when it came out?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they couldn't defend themselves. Remember, he went to go to the store and try to buy weapons, and he said they couldn't sell it to the Negroes. Yeah.
Mm.
I'm not getting
That's
carried out
wild.
in my mother's casket.
That's wild.
Right.
Remember that
Exactly.
scene?
Yeah.
He had to. He couldn't even shoot back.
Mm.
So no, I'll never be defenseless
No,
like that.
totally understandable. And that's what I'm saying. They won't give up theirs first. So who's going to give anything up?
Right.
Yeah.
Fastest growing people or purchasers of weapon are Black women.
Mm.
Bro, yeah.
So all of this talk about them fighting tyranny with their weapons, that's all bull crap, right? Because actually they're just looking to fight the other group.
No, I mean American.
they
Granted, they could take us out right now if they wanted to.
Right, you can't fight the military with handguns and shotguns and stuff.
I got more of a chance than the people in China, though.
That is true.
I mean, you're right. Technology, right? I mean, all I want is a fighting chance. Right. I didn't say I was gonna win.
Yeah.
I just want a fighting chance. Like now, I could be sitting in my car like they are always, and 10, 15 minutes later, there's this scene I just saw from 13 Hours, and the man was completely bluffing. He said, "Look up." The man said, "Okay, now we got your face on camera." He's like, "You hear that drone?" He's like, "Don't worry about it. Your family will."
Yeah.
And he's like, "So either let us go or whatever." And the guy had to let him go. Like,
yeah,
as long as you got drones, yeah. But I appreciate the fighting chance.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
And I've done some hunting and stuff, and you just like, like I've seen stuff that makes the night look like a black and white TV. Like you can clearly see. As long as you got a heat signature, you clearly see what's
out there.
You see what's out there.
I know.
And so you sitting there and you like, again, fighting chance.
Yeah, right. All you want is a fighting chance.
Right.
Like now, do I get to fight? Probably not.
There you
but
go.
I want the fighting chance.
Right.
Exactly.
Wow.
All right, fellas, let's go ahead and get into the topic for today. All right, it is talking about a gig economy. All right, let me ask both of you gentlemen something. Have you held two jobs at the same time?
Well, yes, that's how we met. That's how we met. This whole thing about, when we were thinking about it, I was like, is it hustle hard or are we being hardly hustled? You know what I'm saying? Like, because all of us, gone to school, you engage in these jobs to become a profession. Yes. And it used to be that if you had a profession, you didn't have a second job. Second jobs were for those lower on the job pool. But once you had a profession, a career, you were supposed to be able to, maintain and survive,
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere along the way, they have convinced us that we're not working hard enough. We've developed this hustle mentality. Like, if you don't have two gigs or you're not making wages, or if you're not making a second job, like you shouldn't be dependent on your first job. And I said, when they first said that, why did we fall for that okie doke? Like, why did we fall for the whole, like, oh, you supposed to have a second job? Like, no, I barely want the first one.
Well, it's one of the main reasons we fell for that, because we wasn't looking at what it really is. Those that taught you that are usually those that are in that top 10% bracket. You know what I'm saying? That top 2% bracket that teach you, you know, you got to keep hustling hard and do more of this, do more of that, and whatsoever. When they did not have to do it, most of the time, it was given to them.
It's not only given to them, but they're also their wages. I think all of us here in the studio can testify that our wages have not kept up with the cost of living.
No, it has not.
Mhm.
You know, that is the main problem. Wages,
Yes.
you know, just simply have not kept up with the cost of living. When I got my first Nissan Maxima in 95, when I graduated, I think it was 97, 98. I think I got my first car, and I got it, and the Maxima required premium gas. Premium gas at the time was $1.03. And I was
Boy, I
complaining
missed
about
that.
that, you know, like, yo, it was
Ooh,
$1.03.
that's
Yeah, because
missed.
gas was like 98 cents. you
Oh, I
know,
remember.
97 cents if you had regular, you know, and I
Yeah.
used to go over to Indiana,
Oh, who didn't?
yeah, to get my premium gas,
Who
you know.
didn't?
You take the extra 10-minute ride just so you can
That's
save
right.
a couple. And then I think,
Go over there by the casinos, they were like almost 80 cents over there.
well, think about it, guys.
Yeah.
We were all like, Bush came in the office, and remember when gas started going up to $5, and everybody was like, "Oh, $5!" Like, yo, like I'm about to get me a horse and camel, you know. And then they never came down.
Yeah.
Prices never came down,
Yeah.
and we just accepted it,
Yes.
you know. So that's one of the things. And two, and we've talked about it on this show before, is this moral equivalency. Like if you're struggling to make ends meet, you are somehow lazy, or we've assigned this moral of being poor as to not having a good spirit, you know.
Mhm.
And so that's why we've seen a rise in this gig economy, the Ubers and the Lyfts and the, you know, working, you know,
But
these other jobs.
do either one of you believe that maybe, just maybe, the larger companies are the ones who are promoting this gig economy? Because I mean, they kind of come out on the good end on it, if you really look at it.
They do. I mean, you don't have to have health care for your employees.
Yep.
And I'm sure that saves them a lot of money. Also, you're not legally obligated to, cover anybody that breaks the law if they're not directly working for your company. Like, say, a Uber driver
Yes.
robbed somebody or something. Hey, we just signed them up on the app. We don't know what this guy was doing.
Right.
You know what I
And a
mean?
lot of times they let them go, and hey, go ahead, law,
Yeah.
go get them.
Yeah. But you know what? I got a different way of looking at the gig economy.
Yes.
Okay, so like back in the day, say you wanted to start like a record, right? You have to go through the music agency. They got to promote you and all of this stuff, right? Now, with the right apps and things like that, you can do your own thing, and that I would consider that part of the gig economy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole purpose of it, and I agree with you, is it cut out the middleman. It gave us
Right.
direct access to it. But I question the necessity for it. Like, I get it. If you ever watched the story of Uber and how the cabs had a monopoly on government and they were doing things and charging people out the wazoo, it was ripe for something to come in and take over. It was literally ripe.
Right.
But I struggle with the fact that we have to have a second job. You know, like there's this urgency to have more than one stream of income, you know?
I wouldn't equate hustling
Yes.
with a gig economy, because you know what? Some people, they want to take the easy way out, right? So I want to be a Uber driver because I don't feel like getting a regular job. I like driving. I like, working my own hours. I don't want people telling me what to do. So, I mean, a hustler, I can see them getting two jobs. But,
Right.
just because you work in a gig economy doesn't necessarily mean you want to work hard to try to get ahead. You know what I mean?
I agree with that, but you would agree that there is a sentiment out there that like everybody's supposed to be hustling hard. Like, and I mean hustling hard outside of your regular career.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, we all, part of the reason you have to hustle hard is because of the loss of pensions.
Yeah.
You know, the 401k, the greatest boondoggle that's ever been heaped on United States citizens.
Yeah.
You know, when you had pensions, you had a guaranteed payout. You know, now, you know, if you contribute to your 401k, that's less money you bring it home. So I gotta go work a side gig or get a second job so I can have extra money
So you can make up them ends.
to make up those ends and or invest in a 401k.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you definitely got to do more things for yourself. You know, like the Obamacare. You know, the Affordable Care Act. You got
the only place in this industrialized nation where, in order for me to have health care, I got to have a job. Otherwise, I got to pay for it out of pocket. And I saw something and it just boggles my mind. So let me get this right. I pay for my insurance, right? But I got a deductible. So I got to pay more money for my insurance to kick in.
Yep.
Make that make sense.
Yeah.
Make that make sense. I was looking on the open market at one time for a job, and like for my family, it was like $2,500 per person, or $5,000 per family. And I'm sitting there, $5,000 per family. I'm like, you just telling me to go get an MRI at the beginning of the year, every year. January, yo, can I get the MRI?
Might as well.
Might as well.
You paying for it,
right? So make that make sense. If I either have insurance or I don't, but how do I have to have a deductible that's so high?
Yeah,
my deductible is so high so I can afford it, or I get a low deductible, but my insurance every month is sky high. Make that make sense.
And then another thing with that gig economy and so forth, and just like what you're saying, the companies, they want to get 110% out of you. Okay, whatever company you're dealing with, and if it's within on a gig level, then you're contracted. All right. So they want to get 110% out of you. They want you to do all these things, but then the fact is you don't get the same care, the same respect that you would get if you were a full-time worker at whatever job it is.
Right.
Okay. So now you might turn around and suffer from burnout. Yes. And then they'll turn around and put it on you. What you guys think more about that?
I mean, to Tim's point, what he was saying is these jobs came about as a way of cutting out the middleman.
Right.
And I have no problems with that. Like, everybody has a right to earn what they earn. What I do have a problem with is, A, how much they take from their workers. I think that definitely is right for regulation. B, I'm not sure why, are we forcing these companies to give insurance? I think that's the wrong solution.
It is. It's definitely the wrong solution.
The solution is universal health care.
Yeah, that's the
You know what I'm saying? That is literally the solution.
But that's almost on the level of guns. They're not going to do that.
See, but
I think it's different. I mean, we're the only industrialized nation that don't have universal health care.
I agree with you. We should have it. I agree
So
with you 1,000,000%.
How can the medical industry be so strong that they can fight every company? Because I know companies don't want to be paying for.
It's not the medical; it is the insurance lobbyists.
Are they stronger than every company out there?
Yes, the insurance lobbyists. Insane. The insurance lobbyists.
That is insane.
They are like the cousins to the NRA.
Yeah, they give money to everybody. Insurance. Sometimes, if you look at the insurance regulations that the senators and stuff pass, they're not written by the senators. They're written by the insurance lobby.
Yes.
That's insane, right there.
I mean, everybody's like clapping because we've brought down the cost of what's the stuff
insulin,
insulin
to $35.
Yeah, $35. Well, first of all, it don't cost them $35 to make it.
No,
it don't cost them that. I mean, all they literally do is move a molecule and try to reformulate it and say, "Oh, this is a different, kind of insulin." And it used to be it come from pigs, but now we can manufacture it, right?
Yes.
And I forget they can produce it like,
bro, it's just
pennies on the dollar, like but we charging, but we hailed this as some type of miracle, like, yo, insulin is only $35, like only.
Bro, it's just like that one dude. I do not remember his name, but you remember it was a bunch of big cases with him. I don't know what the pill was, but he manufactured that and it cost him chump change. And he was charging like $72 a pill.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he did not care.
No.
He was in front of Congress. Like, I don't give a,
free markets don't necessarily have to be totally free. Like there is design and regulation, and like there are other medicines out there like inhalers and whatever the one is, if you overdose. Why are these things so expensive?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's because the insurance lobby owns our government, and they have no interest in regulating. These costs are regulated in every other country. You go somewhere, you go to Mexico and all of that, go south of the border. The same thing that costs you $70 in Mexico is $25 in Mexico. I mean, $70 in the United States is $25 in Mexico.
Well, that shouldn't be an industry then. That shouldn't be an industry. If they have so much power that they can stop legislators from actually passing universal health care when it's in the best interest of every business, they shouldn't be an industry.
So let me ask you both this, and everybody out here who's listening: should lobbying be legal? Because we have to sit here and think about this is what they do with insurance. We can go down the line. Banks, guns. It's a whole pile of things that you got lobbyists for, that they do this, and it's perfectly legal.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with lobbying. I have a
but
problem
then,
with
yeah,
money
But
and
then
not knowing where the money comes from.
It's always money in lobbying, though. It's a money and power in there.
But I think they should have to disclose it. After the Supreme Court ruled that dark money started flowing into these companies, right? And so I think you should have to disclose who you're receiving money from and how that affects your vote.
Oh, you got to put something on some of the Supreme Court justices to do that, because
Clarence and his Winnebago and all of that stuff. But I don't have that. Lobbying is an effective way to let the representative or senator know how you feel about a particular issue. But the problem is that you and I don't have the same lobbying power as insurance company Acme, because insurance company Acme is given, oogabs of money, unregulated, undisclosed to them. And when my senator votes a certain way, I don't know why my senator is or is not voting a certain way, and so that's the issue.
Yeah. I don't like the revolving door issue either. You know what I mean? When they
leave Congress,
Congress, start being the lobbyists for the company.
It should be at least a 2-3 year break.
Definitely.
So
some kind of break.
So getting back to our point about this gig economy, I think it is the new fraud that's being heaped on the American people. Not to say to what Tim was saying, like this job thing. It's the mentality that you have to. That you have no choice because your job is not paying enough. And like again, I said, we've made this issue of poverty a moral issue, good or bad. And that's the issue. And that's the problem I have with the gig economy. Not the gig economy itself, but the idea is that all of us have to have a second gig, when we all should have jobs and professions that pay us enough for a decent quality of living.
So let me ask both of y'all this too as well. All of this shot up after the pandemic. What within the pandemic that brought it to that point?
I mean, I think, as I said, the pandemic was an inflection point for all of us. We all started. It provided an opportunity for people to slow down and say, "What am I doing? Why am I giving all of my years and time to this company that don't appreciate it?" And there's been a come to Jesus, why do we have to be in the office every day? If we were able to do the job, what we were doing from home, why do we have to be in the office every day? Like, I can see once or twice a week, but do you have to be in the office every week, every day? Does that make sense?
So why does a cat like Elon Musk have so much power? Because he's trying to force all of his people to go back to the office, and there's a couple more people out there like that. He's not the only one.
I think that if it wasn't for the universal health care issue, I think it would be a flood of people leaving their jobs to do gigs. I think that's probably the only thing that's stopping a lot of people from quitting. I mean,
some people enjoy the steady paycheck. I don't have a problem with that. Some people like that. But like someone says, you'll never get rich working for another man's dream.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there who feel the stifling yoke of not having health care and find it necessary to stay in their gigs and stay in their
Right.
jobs.
I'm thinking of like all the experts, right?
Yeah.
All the artists, all the computer programmers that stuck to these jobs. I mean, they could definitely be freelance workers. You know what I mean?
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if I can do my job from the beaches of wherever,
Right.
now we're always going to have service jobs and things like that, mechanics and all of that stuff where you have to be in person. But, if we're supposed to be a service economy, that's why they pushed us to all of these jobs, we took out the trades out of the schools. We took, training and stuff out of the schools, and we started focusing on computers and education and being a service economy, with the idea that would lead to higher wages and stuff like that. But the fact is that we've become so efficient at it that we have so many other issues in our scene. Not enough carpenters. Like I just read something about there's an issue that's going to be with the airline controller operators. A lot of them are retiring, and there's not enough in the system to replace them. Same thing with mechanics and steel workers. We just don't have enough of these people now because of how efficient and how much we've pushed people towards service jobs and away from, these industries.
Yeah, I get it. Let me throw something else at y'all. All right. We all know that, Social Security is in trouble. All right. And with this gig economy, a lot is not going to Social Security at all.
Sure.
In India, because they have something similar to Social Security. Please don't ask me what it is because I can't remember. But for those who have gigs out in India, they have a portal, that people could log on to and make sure that they're getting something in that Social Security type level. Should we do something like that as Americans?
I just know I better have my Social Security. FIFA ain't never missed a check. FIFA ain't never, since I've been 14 and working for Andy Frank Usher. FIFA came for my first check, coming for my last. So, this idea that Social Security is in trouble, they need to figure it out quick.
Yeah, they do.
But again, like I said, is the biggest hoodwink and boondoggle that's been pulled on the American people. Companies should have to invest in their workers. Companies should have to set aside certain monies for retirement. We were able to do it in the past, and somehow, because it was in the interest and best interest of the corporation, not the citizens, we allowed them to do this. We have allowed them to defund pensions and to quit jobs and not go out of business and not adequately fund their pensions, but meanwhile giving golden parachutes to the CEOs. And so that's what unregulated, unfettered corporatism has done to the American economy.
Yeah, I think that maybe they should have somebody like maybe in a union on the board of companies, so they can regulate like how much salary the executives should get compared to the regular ground level employees, so it doesn't get out of hand.
Well, right. I think in Canada, they tie the CEO's salary to the lowest paid worker.
Right.
It can't be
They
so
should
much
definitely
of
do
a-
something like that.
I bet you then the buying power increased then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
I
should
agree.
probably do some profit sharing.
That's something
Yeah.
that should be pushed,
Yeah.
though.
Profit sharing, these are things. The problem is the pendulum has swung too much in the power of Wall Street. And it seems like when you complain about it, Wall Street says Main Street is, the issue, and then we get people on Main Street to vote against their own economic interests, which to this day is mind boggling. I don't understand why you would vote against the union and, job protections and things like that. I mean, most of our things that we take advantage, the 2 days off, living wages, job protection came as a result of the union.
Right. Yeah.
But yet you got these companies in the South that continue to vote against unionizing. I just don't understand
Yeah,
it.
it's a right to work.
Yeah.
So let me throw this out here, just, piggybacking off of what you're saying. Do you believe, or maybe it should have happened on the fact that, when Obama first came in, he saved a lot of these Wall Street companies. He saved, the big car companies and all that. Should he not? You know what I'm saying? Because something then on that point, they would not have gotten these big fat pension, well, these big fat, purses, on that level.
No, you couldn't let those. I mean, literally, the economy, we were in a recession and heading on our way to a depression. And
Correct.
America, as the world leader and stuff like that, would have just set off the global economy scale. Like it would have been devastating. What we should have done is demanded something in return.
Okay. Such as what?
Well, with the banks and the foreclosures, that they work out foreclosure. Like, we're not going to foreclose on these homes. You're going to work out, solutions to these things, and the terms are going to be very generous. Like, you're going to have to do that. With the car regulators, you're going to lower these interest loans, and no more of these predatory loans. We're going to cap loans at 10%. You're going to cap loans at 10%. Like, you're already making money. You know what I'm saying? But now, I think I heard something about 8-year car loan.
Yeah.
I think the average price for a used car right now is $40,000. $40,000 for an average price for a used car. That's ridiculous. And you wondering, average home price, starter home, $500,000. $500,000?
Yeah.
$500,000? Come on.
Yeah.
We remember when the McMansions first came out. Those were running $500,000-$800,000. Now you talking about a starter home? Come on now.
So I remember when we had that crash in 2007, and people were, and Barack Obama came in there and he saved the banks, and a lot of people were arguing. They were like, maybe we should just let it all just collapse and start over. So what do you all? I know it would have hurt. It would have hurt people of color more than everybody else. I know that. In a financial situation like that, and the global economy would have crashed, but maybe we would have came out of it stronger.
No, we wouldn't have come out of it.
I mean,
we wouldn't have come out of it.
No.
That could have been possible. Now, the thing is, will we had stood together and tried to work that out? That's the hard part.
No, a
lot of people would have ran into anarchy.
That's exactly what happened. People losing their retirement plans and pensions and all of that stuff. And then you talking about, massive inflation, like, $500 to get a can of soup. Like, that's look at Venezuela.
So you talking about Greece?
Yeah, Greece
that
and
was
all of
another
that. There was no way. You had to save it. We were in a situation, but what we didn't do is we gave and didn't demand.
Right.
Which is, my thing when we vote Democrat.
That's what we do. That's my concern, right?
Yes.
Every time we come into a crisis, we put Band-Aids on stuff all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it keeps getting worse and worse every year. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and we, more homeless people, and I'm like, okay, so when is the pain going to start enough so we can try to do a little resetting?
I don't know. Thomas Jefferson said a revolution every now and then is a good thing.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Well, everybody, we are coming up against the clock. Any last words, gentlemen?
When it comes to gig economies, I think that, being able to stop the gatekeepers from doing what you want to do, I think that ultimately is going to be a good thing, but they definitely have to get the universal health care to go along with it to really free people up.
As I said, my job isn't per se with the gig economy, the actual jobs. It's the perception that you have to have it. Like, if, because of this moral indignation or moral crisis of, not having enough. We need to stop that. You are enough. You've gone to school. Our parents had one job. And so we need to figure out a better solution, because sometimes the solution isn't working harder. It isn't working harder. People are burning at both ends of the stick. People barely taking vacations. America has one of the highest percentage of people who don't use their vacation time. That's not right. We're the richest nation on earth, and yet people can't afford to take vacations. They're burning out. and some of this violence that we're seeing is going to continue to happen because, of this belief that what I'm doing is not enough, and, life is meant to be enjoyed. We work hard so that we can enjoy life, not work hard to work harder.
Right. Absolutely.
And so we got to get away from that.
Right. And then I'm just going to add on to what you're saying, because you're both running on something very good. Also, I believe that, what we need to do with the gig economy, with the violence and all that, it is that togetherness. All right.
Yep.
We together, we could find a solution to fix all of this. We really can't. So we have to stop, and many times you hear a lot of folks, oh, well, yeah, we're all countrymen, we're all Americans, blah, 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 blah. But you're not standing together. A lot of times folks is standing separately and dare you to say something because they standing separately than you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We have to end all that, flip it, and make things work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, hey, everybody, if you want to keep with the conversation, as always, you can hit us up on Facebook Live. You can email us at the triple-threat-radio@gmail.com. But this is Elevated Vibes, and we will catch y'all next week. Peace.